Hello again and welcome to ManchTalk. I'm Tammy Simmons. I'm your host and I'm glad you're tuning in. So, weather played a little trick on us. Dan and I and some friends went camping this past weekend up north in the White Mountains, and it was supposed to be 85, and we were going to tube on the Pemigewasset River and all this great stuff. And yeah, it was cold and rainy. Still a wonderful weekend camping. Any weekend camping is a wonderful weekend, but that's beside the point. Looks like the weather's going to be back up into the 90s for the next 10 days. So the weekend preceding 4th of July and 4th of July looking to be very summery. So make sure you get out there and enjoy that. Just wanted to touch on a couple topics today. The first one is decorum. I have strong opinions. I think people know that. I have really strong opinions on some things. I'm also an adult, and I try to act like an adult from time to time. Far too often, too many adults act like idiots and less like adults. I've been involved in New Hampshire politics for more than 2 decades. I've known people on both sides of the aisle, Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, you name it. Most can act like adults. Some act like idiots. I've had the opportunities to work with people from all over the country. I've worked with people running for, school board or alderman, all the way up to working for, I worked for U.S. Senator Rand Paul in his presidential bid, and I've been involved in other presidential campaigns. So I've run the gamut of people. Ignorance is not limited by any means just to lower level employee staff or, way up here in the food chain as far as politics go. I've met a lot of great people. Some are less impressive than others. But I do feel like I've seen a lot of people. I've interacted with a lot of people involved in politics. Now, protesting's generally not a bad thing in my opinion. I have no problem with anybody standing on a street corner, holding a sign, trying to make their message be heard. I always joke with people and say, sometimes your messages are a little confusing and nobody can figure out what the heck it is you're trying to say. But that's what freedom of speech is about. You have the right to stand someplace and, hold a sign saying blah, 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 whatever your opinion is. That's fine. Now, can you impede traffic on the road or on the sidewalk? Can you block a restaurant entrance so that I can't get in and, buy a meal? No, there's local ordinances that say, you can protest, but it can only be in certain places. You can't impede traffic. You can't impede vehicle traffic. You can't interfere with public safety. Those are all very reasonable adult things. Now, protesting can take all sorts of forms. Some people, I remember years ago when some people were chalking on the sidewalk in Concord. No harm, no foul. Chalk comes off in the rain. They weren't permanently defacing somebody else's property because that obviously is not acceptable. One thing I do not think is an effective form of protest is screaming profanities at other people. Screaming probably in general isn't always the best plan, but screaming profanities definitely not an effective way to get your point across. So this brings me to the news story recently that New Hampshire's own Senator Maggie Hassan, one of her interns, was caught on video in the Capitol Rotunda screaming profanity at the President of the United States. Now, you don't have to like Donald Trump. I didn't have to like Barack Obama. It doesn't matter who's in that office. The office is still the office. They still are the president of this country. And decorum should be expected. You don't scream profanities at the President of the United States. Not if you're an adult anyways. And I do realize that adulting can be tricky for people. But this intern, Caitlin Elliott, 21-year-old Caitlin Elliott, who went to Keene State College, so I can't even blame it on being, educated in some other state. She's an intern for Maggie Hassan down in D.C., and she was caught on video yelling across the Capitol Rotunda, "Mr. President, F you." Well, great. There's a picture. Screaming profanity at people is generally just not a good way to get any sort of positive message across. The fact that you're an intern for a sitting U.S. senator, even more so why you probably shouldn't be screaming profanity at the President of the United States, mind you, with Secret Service there in the Capitol Rotunda. It's just not really adulting. what's even more amazing is after this 21-year-old adult, because 21 years old is an adult, despite the fact that so many people want to treat, you know, adults in their 20s, maybe even up to 30, as if they're children and need to be coddled by their, you know, by adults because, oh, they're just kids. Well, no, actually 21-year-old is an adult. Maybe we should start treating adults like adults. Caitlin Elliott was only suspended from her internship for 1 week. 1 week for screaming profanity across the Capitol Rotunda at the President of the United States. So, you know, they revoked her privilege badge or whatever that gets her access to the Capitol and whatnot. But she'll finish her intern gig through the end of August. Because I guess it's okay for Senator Hassan's interns to scream profanity at anyone in public, let alone the President of the United States. Caitlin's mom must be so proud. How about that? So that makes me think about politics in general. And, you know, I've done my fair share of arm twisting when I was in the state legislature. You know, everybody's always trying to convince other people to see their point of view and come along on their side of a vote. You know, there's ways to do it. Screaming profanities is not one of them. That being said, I prefer more carrot and less stick. More honey, less vinegar. I think we need to tone the anger down a bit. I think we need to remember that we are all adults. I'd like to see adults acting more like adults and less like I'm watching the movie Idiocracy, because that's not a good picture. And I don't want to see us become more like that. I think we're already to put our toe in the water down that road. Civility is a good thing. More carrot, less stick. So that brings me to my second topic for the day. Chief days. Because what the heck's a chief day? Well, apparently chief days are an off-the-books policy here in Manchester, where the chief of police, and it's not any one particular chief of police, this seems to have been a practice that nobody seems to be able to identify when it started, but it sounds like it's been something that's been going on for years. The chief of police can award a paid day off to an employee for doing their job. Well, you know, you might say, well, you know, if somebody does a good job, they should be rewarded. Well, they are rewarded. They get paid well every week. Manchester police are not underpaid. Yes, they have a difficult job. I'm not by any means saying the police job is not difficult, that it's not taxing, that, you know, it's not, it is what it is. It's the job of being a police officer. It's not a secret what the job of a police officer is. And when you sign up for the job of being a police officer, you're going to be a police officer. You're going to deal with the toughness of that profession. So that being said, if you just do your job that you're being paid for, should you be given bonus days off? Well, now, if this was a private company, and the owner of the company wanted to reward an employee for doing something good for the company and give them a day off with pay, that's really up to the owner of the company, because that to pay for that employee, they're dipping into their company's profits. So if it's the owner of the company dipping into, in essence, his own personal pocket to give one of his employees or all of his employees a day off, that's fine. Now, government, not a private company. The city of Manchester does not have any profits to dip into. Sure, we talk about revenues, but revenues are really just taxes. They're your money, they're my money. We don't sell a product to create profit in the city of Manchester. We can say that, you know, there's fees for services. It's still not profit. We don't have an item that we sell. The role of government, the appropriate role of government, in my opinion, is to provide needed services to the community. Now, I'm not trying to say that the police aren't needed. Again, this is not an anti-police comment. This is about the appropriateness of allocating your money and my money off the books in the way that it's been done in the police department. So we didn't happen to hear about these chief days because maybe Chief Willard said, geez, there's no line item in my budget for these days that I've been given days when I was a police officer. So I just thought it was a common practice. And when I became police chief, I thought, geez, there's no line item for chief days. So I'm just going to continue the practice of saying to Joe police officer, you can take a day off and we'll say you're working. But you don't actually have to come into work, because that's in essence what chief days are. So you probably might say, well, what's the harm? It's just a day off. Well, the first thing is, that's my money, that's your money, paying for those additional days off. The police union has already entered into a contract with the city of Manchester for fair amount of pay increases for police, and they have their set number of days off per year. They get personal days, they get vacation days. And the second part of this is, when a police officer either retires or leaves the department for whatever reason, maybe to go to another department and take a job, the current contract allows them to take with them a payout of 400 hours of unused vacation time. Well, for a $75,000 a year police officer, that could be over $14,000 in unpaid vacation that they're allowed to get paid out when they leave. That's part of this severance thing that you keep hearing so much about. So the problem is, every chief day, you've got, Joe Police, who isn't working, so he should be taking a vacation day or a personal day. But instead, he's getting paid as if he is at work, because that's how it works. And he's not using a vacation day, which can be banked towards those 400 hours that he gets when he leaves the department. Now, we have personally, there's a huge problem with the severance and these payouts. That needs to end, because no department is actually budgeting for them either. You hear it time and time again from the department heads that they can't cover their severance costs. They keep having to come back to the alderman and ask for contingency money to cover their severance costs. That's because they're not budgeting for them. They're not saving for them, and they're not budgeting for them. So when somebody leaves and they have $14,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 due to them, because that's what the union contract calls for, there's no money in that department's budget to cover it more often than not. So then they have to come to the contingency money. Well, is contingency money really just severance money? Is contingency money just for future pay increases? Or is contingency money for things that become contingent? Like, we suddenly have more road repairs we need done. We would like to pave an additional mile of streets. We'd like to repair a bridge. We'd like to do improvements on one of our school buildings. Those, to me, are true contingencies. Though pay increases, known severance packages, those are things that should be budgeted for in the prior budget, not to take from future budgets. So what we're stuck with instead is a policy. I mean, Chief Willard has, I believe it was Chief Willard, now I'm confused, is it Chief Willard or Chief Capano? The practice has been put on hold. The practice has been stopped while they look at what it is. That doesn't give back all the hours that were accrued by who knows how many police officers, because this is all off the books. All of this is happening off the books. It makes me wonder if, not just for the police department and not just by a task force set up by some other department, begs to wonder if we shouldn't have an independent, doesn't have to be paid, an independent citizen audit of some of our departments. Because when my taxes go up year after year, which is just money they're taking from me, I mean, that's how taxes work. I don't get to say yes or no, I want to buy that product. The money just gets taken from me. You take my money in the way of taxes to provide me with necessary services. Yet I don't see any improvements in any services in the city. I actually probably over time will see decreases in services. Nobody seems to be truly concerned or vocally concerned about the ever-increasing cost of running the basic government that we should have. I've said time and time again that the majority of our increase in taxes is not going to add supplies to the school or put shades on the windows at the school like Alderman Kavanaugh would have you believe. The money is not going to pave more streets. If that was the case, I'd probably be okay with a one-time tax increase. The money is going into pensions, salary increases, and healthcare benefits. That's where the cost of all this stuff goes. And now we're finding out that they're padding the already lucrative benefits with this off the books perk that somewhere along the line was created. Who knows how many other departments have other perks? I'd love to find out that none of them do. The police department already has built-in side work in the way of traffic details. Manchester police officers are guaranteed pretty much $40 an hour plus odd part-time gig, waving on traffic when there's road work. Now, if the highway department's doing road work, they put out orange cones or have one of the highway departments wave them on, and everything seems safe. There's not accidents or whatever. But if it's a private company doing the work, then all of a sudden now we need a police officer to wave on traffic. We can't have a city employee waving on traffic, or God forbid, a private contractor waving on traffic. We have police officers waving on traffic making $40+ an hour guaranteed. Now, I am sure that a fire department employee could handle waving on traffic, and I'm confident that the highway department can do it because they do it already. But we limit those police details to just the police department. So they've already got their salary and their compensation package and their accrued vacation and their 400-hour buyout at the end when they leave the department. But they also have this little added built-in perk of being able to do all the police detail work that they want. I believe, from what I learned when I was up at the State House, I think Chief Mara told me they can work 24 hours every week on police details above and beyond their 40-hour week full-time police job. So there's a lot I think that the public should be looking at. I think that people should, it's not meant to be anti-police. I respect that they have a very difficult job to do. I respect that there are a lot of good people in these jobs. I just do not think that we are learning about good things that we didn't know about in the departments. We keep hearing about bad things. Sadly, this all came up because a Manchester woman has accused a now former Manchester police officer of forcing her to have sex on one of these chief days. If it wasn't for that allegation, we probably wouldn't know anything about chief days. So I think it's important that people be diligent. We can be civil about it. This might frustrate the heck out of me. Still doesn't bring me to the point of where I should feel comfortable yelling profanities at somebody. But it is something that should definitely be concerning to you. So now, I'm taping the show on Tuesday, June 26th, and Local Access Channel will not be taping next week. Manchester Public Television Service will not be taping shows the week of 4th of July, which is coming up next week. So you'll see this show replayed for 2 weeks. I did want to mention to everybody that Manchester fireworks will be taking place on Wednesday, July 4th. They will start at about 9:30 p.m. They take place in Arms Park, which is the one down near the river where the stairs go down into the Merrimack. The celebration will also include live entertainment and food vendors, and like I said, the fireworks at 9:30 p.m. That's on Wednesday, July 4th. I also want to remind people that In Town Manchester's free summer concert series will be kicking off on Thursday, July 12th. Veterans Park opens about 6 p.m. Concerts will start at about 7. The first concert is a group called Foreigner's Journey, which I assume is a cover band for Foreigner and Journey and whatnot. I guess that would be the 80s. So like I said, that concert starts at 7. Maybe before you go down to watch the free concert in the park, you can go down Elm Street, grab a great dinner. There's so many great restaurants on Elm Street. And if you go out to Cooptopia.com, that's COUPTOPIA.com, there's at least 3 coupons for discounted meals. The Farm Bar and Grill up on the corner of Elm and Bridge has a 15 for 30 coupon, so you pay $15 and you can get $30 worth of food with that. There's also a 15 for 30 at Piccola Italia, and there might be one for Exo on Elm. I'm not really sure, but I did see Piccola Italia, and I believe there's one out there also on Cooptopia.com for Stark Brewing, which used to be Millie's Tavern. Or if you don't want, if you're not going to take advantage of one of those deals, you could stop at Boards and Brews. They're right there on Elm Street, just a little bit north of the Shashkeen. Great little place. You can get some bite to eat. They have great sandwiches, and some appetizers. You can have beer or a cup of coffee or whatever, and play a board game. One of my favorite businesses on Elm Street right now, Boards and Brews, right there, just north of Shashkeen, across from City Hall. There's lots of, like I said, there are tons of great restaurants. Maybe grab a bite to eat and then go down for the free concert. It's a great way to get outdoors and see a little bit more of Elm Street if you don't get down there very often. Also, in town Manchester has now started the Thursday Farmers Market that is now located in Stanton Plaza, which is right there in front of what used to be the Holiday Inn Center in New Hampshire. I believe it's a DoubleTree by Hilton now. I can't keep up. But that's the farmers market that takes place every Thursday from 3 to 6:30. And you can get more information on the farmers market or the free concert series or any other events that In Town Manchester is involved with by visiting their website at intownmanchester.com. So that's really all I have. I hope you enjoyed this great summer weather we're going to have over the next 10 days. Get out there and take a walk on the bike path. You can go all the way up to the village of Goffstown and all the way over to the baseball park. And then you can take, there's also a path that runs behind Nuts Pond down off of South Willow Street. You could go up to Doors Pond, walk around, go up to Livingston Park, walk around Doors Pond, go out to Lake Massabesic, and there's trails that go around there, or venture a little bit further south from the beach area and go to the New Hampshire Audubon Society right there on Lake Massabesic. There are tons of great places right here in Manchester to get out and enjoy the outdoors and take a nice walk. Now, you can also go downtown and rent a bike. There's bike stations all over downtown. If you don't have your own bike, you could take a ride around downtown Elm Street by renting one of those bikes. Or if you have a dog, get on over to the dog park. Check out the dog park located on Bass Island on 2nd Street. There's so many great things in Manchester. I know for a fact that I will be in my kayak at least once in the next 10 days, and I'll try to bring you footage of that. Maybe I'll get out on the Merrimack and be able to tape my next show out there. But until then, enjoy Independence Day. Remember why we celebrate the holiday on the 4th of July. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Have a great one. Bye.